Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael McQuarrie, the Communications Director for Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett. We would like to thank you for joining us for this COVID-19 Small Business Webinar hosted by Congresswoman Stacey E. Plaskett. Our speakers for today will be Wayne Huddleston, who is Senior Area Manager for U.S. Virgin Islands Small Business Administration, and Ted Gutierrez, State Director for VI Small Business Development Center. We will start with an opening statement from Congresswoman Stacey E. Plaskett. Congresswoman, you can go.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me and my team, as well as our guests today for the first small business webinar being done remotely from our office. The team has put together this webinar with the hopes of outlining how the Small Business Administration, as well as the CARE Act, can affect small businesses in the Virgin Islands. We know that this is not just business owners, but private and nonprofit organizations who are grappling with economic disruption, along with various programs and resources available to you all. I'm pleased to be joined by Senior Manager of the Small Business Administration, Wayne Huddleston, and the State Director of the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, Ted Gutierrez.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Along with my Legislative Director, Jeffrey Noel, Esquire, who's here to help answer questions that we may have, as well as to present what are the programs in place. Our nation and the world over is currently facing the worst pandemic seen in 50 years, the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. There is new data available from the National Federation of Independent Businesses that shows the current effects of the coronavirus, but the concern is great. Also, with the uncertainty of COVID-19, many small business owners are being forced to take drastic steps in order to continue operations, while others are fearful about their financial future. I, along with others, have been working in Washington for the past few weeks. We've been working with Governor Bryant, the local Virgin Islands legislature, and both of their teams to analyze the financial documentation and develop request letters in an effort to mitigate healthcare concerns, lost revenues, government expenses, among others, due to this virus. We have a number of presenters who are going to speak with you all, but I just wanted to make some talking points. First, I wanted to thank Wayne Huddleston and Ted Gutierrez for being on the call. Thank SBDC for helping local small business entrepreneurs succeed and drive economic growth and job creation. So as an economic developer, it's important that we focus on development of small businesses, which are really vital to our small economy. We all know that in 2017, our economy was challenged by Hurricanes Irma and Maria. The cost to ship increase, infrastructure conditions hinder productivity, and the devastation brought a shortage of labor. Rural areas like ours struggle to meet demands of high shipping costs and access. And my staff has really been working for fiscal year 2021 to increase appropriations funding for SBDC. We're also working with like members here in Congress to enhance rural economic growth, contain high costs, and provide importers and retailers with greater price certainty. So under the Coronavirus Relief, Aid, and Economic Safety Act, which everyone is now calling CARES, SBA is offering designated states and territories low-interest federal disaster loans to small businesses suffering substantial economic harm as a result of this pandemic. These loans may be used by small businesses to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and additional bills that can't be paid because of COVID-19's impact. The interest rate is 3.75% for small businesses without other available means of credit, and the interest rate for nonprofit organizations is 2.75%. Businesses with credit available elsewhere are not eligible. The SBA loans come with long-term repayments up to a maximum of 30 years in an effort to keep payments affordable. Loan terms are determined on a case-by-case basis according to an individual borrower's ability to repay. Now, it's key to know that SBA has amended its disaster loan criteria to help borrowers still paying back SBA loans from previous disasters. By making this change, deferments through December 31st, 2020 will be automatic. Hence, borrowers of home and disaster loans do not need to contact SBA to request that deferment. Among the many relief programs offered under the CARES Act, there are small business tax provisions. These tax provisions include an employee retention credit for employers subject to closure or experiencing economic hardship. This provision would provide a refundable payroll tax credit. Say that again, because I messed up. The provision would provide a refundable payroll tax credit for 50% of wages paid by eligible employers for certain employees during the COVID crisis. This is intended to assist small business owners with 6 major programs and tax relief provisions. The bill, now law, offers the Paycheck Protection Program that will provide a cash flow assistance through 100% federally guaranteed loans to employers who maintain their payroll, that is, keep their employees during the emergency. The Small Business Debt Relief Program will provide immediate relief to small businesses with non-disaster SBA loan. This is considered under the Economic Emergency Injury Grants, which offer grants to provide an emergency advance up to $10,000 for small businesses and private nonprofits harmed by COVID. But I want you also to be aware that there is already in place an economic injury disaster loan, and that is something that Wayne can give you more details about. So the bill provides, so when we talked about the emergency grant, there's $10 billion in the fund for grants up to $10,000 to provide emergency funds for small businesses to cover immediate operating costs. But there are forgivable loans up to $10 million per business, wherein a portion of that loan is used to maintain payroll, keep workers on the books or pay rent, mortgages, and existing debt could be forgiven, provided workers stay employed through the end of June. The relief for existing loans is there as well. So Mike, I know that we have a presentation that we can give so that people can learn some more about this. And I'll leave it up to you to direct the discussion from here.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. Right now, we'll have some opening remarks from Wayne Huddleston. Wayne, you're on.
All right, good morning, everyone. As Congresswoman Plaskett said, my name is Wayne Huddleston. I am the Senior Area Manager for the U.S. Small Business Administration in the Territory. To give you just a very brief overview of what the Small Business Administration does, many of our programs and resources can be divided into 4 areas. One being federal contracting. Our goal as an agency is to assist all federal agencies in reaching the goal of providing 23% of their contracting dollars to small businesses. And my goal is to make sure that as many small businesses here in the Virgin Islands have an opportunity to compete for federal contracts. And we have a number of certification programs that assist in that process as well. Another area of ours is our technical support programs, highlighted most largely in the territory by our Small Business Development Center, which Ted Gutierrez will speak to a little bit later. But we also have many other technical support programs from organizations called SCORE, from workshops and programs that I provide directly, to one called Emerging Leaders, and many things that we provide throughout the year to provide technical support and assistance to businesses so they can grow and succeed. Another big area is our capital, access to capital programs. Most notably our SBA loan program, which is not a loan directly from SBA, but through our partner banks in the territory, of which the 5 large banks are all eligible to participate in our SBA loan program. We provide guarantees to the banks, enabling them to provide loans under terms that are a little bit more favorable for borrowers in the territory. And then finally, and most importantly today, is our efforts to assist in disaster. Many of you are familiar with our efforts after Hurricanes Irma and Maria. And then now this is a whole new ball game here with the COVID-19 outbreak. As Congresswoman Plaskett stated, we have a program in place called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. If many of you were applying this last week, you may have noticed there were a few hiccups managing the traffic. That program was designed to address hurricanes, earthquakes, and things of the like, not of a country-wide pandemic that we're experiencing. So in order to manage that volume, we've made some modifications to the site. If you go there now, you can apply for an economic injury disaster loan and walk through a list of questions to help simplify the application process. We're really trying to streamline that as much as possible. And as Congresswoman Plaskett mentioned, there are a number of programs that were just recently signed into law by the President on Friday. We are working to implement those programs as quickly as possible in the territory. We expect a payment protection plan will be up and running by Friday in partnership with lenders throughout the territory. We also have a provision for debt relief on current SBA loans that is already in place and working. My strongest suggestion is to stay in touch with our sba.gov site, specifically sba.gov/coronavirus. As we provide more information and provide more clarity on when programs can start and how you can apply, we will be updating that website frequently with the latest information. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wayne. And now we'll have brief remarks from Ted Gutierrez. Ted, you're on.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Congresswoman Plaskett. Appreciate the opportunity to reach out in the community and give an overview quickly of what the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is doing to help support small businesses during this critical time. Like everyone else in the territory, we're limited by working from our homes, but we are assisting people, clients, new clients, existing clients via email, telephone, and of course we have access as well. So those clients that want to meet with us, we have the 3 different ways of helping with them through the different processes. All of our SBDC staff is well versed on the EIDL, EIDL loan process. And what we do is we continue to post updates as we receive them from SBA on our social media platform. Those are the quickest way to get out updates is primarily through Facebook and Twitter. Our Facebook is just simply VISBDC, and Twitter is @VISBDC. So that's the quickest way to get updates. And of course, we're partnering with primarily SBA to help get the information out there. Once the items are available for folks to take advantage of, that's where the SBDC staff comes in and we can assist them either with the loan application process, answer some basic questions, or get their information ready for the loan when they're ready to submit it, preferably online. But for some folks, that would be US mail as well. We're also partnering with other local partners. Myself and Wayne are part of seminars through VIEDA. And of course, we're trying to figure out a way how we can continue to get the message out that we're here to help. So I can provide the contact information from SBDC at the end when it's time for questions, the specific number and links as well. So we're here, we're ready, prepared to assist in any way possible. And once again, we're taking our guidance from SBA. And there's a lot of information out there coming from all different sources. And the best way to get the most accurate information is, once again, like Wayne mentioned, is sba.gov/coronavirus. And we're sharing that information as it comes down to us. So thank you, we appreciate it and look forward to helping out during this critical time.
Thank you very much, Ted. And now we'll have a brief presentation from the Congresswoman and Jeff Noel.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the CARES Act, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act was signed into law on March 27th, 2020. The $2 trillion package is the largest economic stimulus in U.S. history. The bill provides economic assistance to working Americans, small businesses, local and state governments, including the Virgin Islands. For small businesses, the CARES Act provides federally guaranteed SBA loans for businesses with 500 or fewer employees. These loans are available immediately through the existing Small Business Administration certified lenders, including certain banks, credit unions, and other financial institutions. A streamlined process will also be created to quickly approve other lenders for the program. The size of the loans is tied to the small business's average monthly payroll going back to February 15th. The maximum loan amount is $10 million. If small businesses retain and pay their employees, the portion of the loan used to cover payroll and mortgage interest, rent, and utility payments will be forgiven. On March 21st, the Virgin Islands received a disaster declaration from the Small Business Administration. This declaration allows for small business owners to apply for disaster loans. So there are about 4 programs in an overview. One is the Paycheck Protection Program, which is a working capital to cover the cost of retaining employees during the COVID crisis. Then there's economic injury disaster loans that the Congresswoman talked about, which are low interest loans for those suffering substantial economic injury related to COVID-19. Then there's economic injury grants, which is a quick infusion of a small amount of cash to cover immediate expenses. And lastly, there is the Small Business Debt Relief Program, which provides assistance keeping up with payments on a current or potential SBA loan. Then there are some tax provisions. Small Business Tax Credit, which is an employee retention credit for employers subject to closure or experiencing economic hardship. And lastly, there is delayed payment of payroll taxes, which allows taxpayers to defer paying the employer portion of certain payroll taxes through the end of this year, 2020. Now we're going to go a little bit more in depth on each program. First, the Paycheck Protection Program provides cash flow assistance through 100% federally guaranteed loans to employers who maintain their payroll during this COVID-19 emergency. If employers maintain their payroll, the loans will be forgiven. Forgiveness is up to 8 weeks of payroll based upon employee retention and salary levels. There will be no SBA fees and at least 6 months of deferral, with maximum deferrals of up to a year is allowed. This program is retroactive to February 15th in order to help bring workers who may have already been laid off back onto payrolls. Loans are available through June 30th of this year. Next, we have economic injury disaster loans. These are low interest loans of up to $2 million with principal and interest deferment available for up to 4 years. These loans are available to pay for expenses that could have been met and the disaster not occurred, including payroll and other operating expenses. These economic injury disaster loans are available to the following categories with 500 or fewer employees: small business owners, independent contractors, cooperatives, and private nonprofits. Next are the emergency economic injury grants. These grants provide an emergency advance of up to $10,000 for small businesses and private nonprofits harmed by COVID-19 within 3 days of applying for an SBA economic injury disaster loan. The advance does not need to be repaid under any circumstance. The advance may be used to keep employees on payroll, to pay for sick leave, meet increased production costs due to supply chain disruptions, or pay business obligations, including debts, rent, and mortgage payments. The grants are backdated to January 31st of this year and are available until the end of this year, December 31st, 2020. Next, we have small business debt relief. It provides immediate relief to small businesses with non-disaster SBA loans. the 7A loan program, 504, and microloans. Under this program, SBA will cover all loan payments on these SBA loans, including principal, interest, and fees for 6 months. This relief will also be available to new borrowers who take out loans between March 27th of this year and September 27th of this year. Getting into the tax credits, the small business tax credit will provide a refundable payroll tax credit for 50% of eligible employers during the COVID-19 crisis. The credit is available to employers whose operations have fully or partially been suspended as a result of a government order related to COVID-19. The credit is also available to employers who experience a greater than 50% reduction in quarterly receipts. The credit is provided for wages and compensation, including health benefits. The credit is provided through the end of this year. It is not available to employers receiving assistance through the Paycheck Protection Program, which is the first program on these slides. Lastly, we have delayed payment of payroll taxes, the employer portion of FICA taxes, and half of the Self-Employee Compensation Act tax liability. All 2020 deferred amounts will be due in 2 equal installments. One is at the end of 2021 and the other at the end of 2022. It is again not available to employers receiving assistance through the Paycheck Protection Program. Thank you for participating.
Thank you very much for that, Jeff. And next we'll go to the Congresswoman who will answer some frequently asked questions. Congresswoman, you're on.
Great, thanks so much. There were a lot of questions, and please understand, first of all, that this is a completely evolving process. So we don't necessarily have the answers to all of the questions yet. Some of these things are still being worked out from the administration, and some of the language was vague, and we're waiting to see how Treasury, SBA, and the administration will answer this. So some of frequently asked questions. I'm first going to talk about the Payment Protection Program loans. This is the first one that Jeff talked about, which are loans that are available through June 30th, 2020. And these are through 100% federally guaranteed loans to employers who maintain their payroll during the emergency. Frequently asked questions are, what types of businesses and entities are eligible for a PPA loan? Businesses and entities must have been in operation on February 15th, 2020. Small business concerns, as well as any business concern, a 501c3, 501c19, veterans organization, tribal business or concern, any that have fewer than 500 employees, or fewer employees than established by the relevant industry code. Individuals who operate as sole proprietor or as independent contractor and eligible self-employed individuals qualify as well. Any business concern that employs not more than 500 employees per physical location of business concern and is assigned a North American Industry Classification Code beginning with 72, for which the affiliation rules are waived. What types of nonprofits are eligible? All 501c3 nonprofits with 500 employees or fewer, if FBA size standards for the nonprofit allows. There's a website, www.sba.gov/size-standards to find out your nonprofit's SBA size standards by number of employees. For example, churches and museums with fewer than 500 employees are eligible, right? How is the loan size determined? Depending on your business situation, the loan size will be calculated in different ways. If you were in Fed Business, so example, okay, the maximum loan is always to 10 million. But If you were in business February 15th, 2019 to June 30th, 2019, your maximum loan is equal to 250% of your average monthly payroll costs during that time period. If your business employs seasonal workers, you can opt to choose March 1st, 2019 as your time period start date. If you were not in business between February 15, 2019 and June 30th, 2019, your max is equal to 250% of your average monthly payroll costs between January 1st, 2020 and February 29th, 2020. If you took out an economic injury disaster loan between February 15, 2020 and June 30th, 2020, and you want to refinance that loan into a PPP loan, you would add the outstanding loan amount to the payroll sum. So you can refinance your loan into a PPP loan and would add the outstanding loan amount to the payroll sum. What costs are eligible for payroll? Compensation, which includes salary, wage, commission, similar compensation, payment of cash tip or equivalent, payment for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance for dismissal or separation, payment required for the provisions of group healthcare benefits, payment of any retirement benefits, and payment of local tax assessed on the compensation of employees. What costs are not eligible for payroll? Employee owner compensation over $100,000, taxes imposed or withheld under chapters 21, 22, and 24 of the IRS Code, compensation of employees whose principal place of residence is outside the United States, qualified sick and family leave for which a credit is allowed under section 7001 and 7703 of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. That was the second legislation that Congress passed. What are the allowable uses of the loan proceeds? Payroll costs, costs related to the continuation of group health care benefits, employee salaries, commissions or similar compensation, payments of interest or any mortgage obligation, rent, including rent under a lease agreement, utilities, or interest on any other debt obligations that were occurred during the covered period. How is the forgiveness amount calculated? Forgiveness on a covered loan is equal to the sum of the following payroll costs incurred during the covered 8 weeks period compared to the previous year or time period, proportionate to maintaining employees and wages. All right, that's excluding compensation over $100,000. So it's the payroll costs plus any payment of interest on any covered mortgage obligation, plus any payments on any covered rent obligations, plus any covered utility payment, okay? And how do I get forgiveness on this loan? You must apply through your lender for forgiveness of your loan. In the application, you would include documentation verifying the number of employees on payroll and pay rates, including payroll tax filings, local income, payroll, and unemployment insurance filing, documentation verifying payments on covered mortgage obligations, lease obligations, and utilities, and certification from a representative of your business or organization that is authorized to certify that the documentation that you're providing is true and that the amount that is being forgiven was used in accordance with the program's guidelines for uses. So let me see if I see we have been getting questions. We tried to look up a lot of these. I see that some of you are still asking questions, and we'll probably have the end of this week or beginning of next week, a second webinar where we will try and answer those others that we couldn't in this one, and for which we haven't had, policy was not created as yet. So I just want to elaborate on the importance of employee retention and receiving the program. Employees' retention under the CARES Act make you eligible to receive money under the Payment Protection Program. This provides cash flow assistance through 100% federally guaranteed loans to employers who maintain their payroll during this emergency. If employers maintain payroll, the loans are forgiven, which would help workers remain employed. PPP has a host of attractive features, such as forgiveness up to 8 weeks of payroll based on employee retention and salary level. The CARES Act also allows for employee retention credit for employers subject to closure or experiencing economic hardship. This provision would provide a refundable tax credit for 50% of wages paid by eligible employers to certain employees under COVID-19. Another question. Is the aid available to small business owners in the territories concerned about the lack and loss of income? Will there be SBA disaster declaration? Yes, the governor received the disaster declaration from the Small Business Administration, giving small business eligible to apply for SBA economic injury disaster loans. And also, what's another area? There is another program that Jeff talked about, the Small Business Debt Relief Program. This program would provide immediate relief to small businesses with non-disaster SBA loans, in particular 7A, 504, and microloans. Under it, SBA would cover loan payments on these SBA loans, including principal, interest, fees for 6 months. This relief will also be available to new borrowers who take out loans within the 6 months of the president signing the bill into law, right? These are loans which are not made under the Paycheck Protection Program, 504 loans, and microloans. And borrowers may separately apply for and take out the PPP loan, but the debt relief under this program will not apply to PPP loans, all right? In general, businesses must meet a size standard, be based in the US, be able to repay, and have sound business purpose to be eligible for a 7A, 504, or microloan. And Wayne, I'm sure you can talk about this one, as well as the economic injury disaster loan to those that are on the line. Mike?
Thank you, Congresswoman. Wayne and Ted, we've received a few questions, and one of them is, how long can we expect the approval process to take? And once the funds are approved, how do we access them?
That's a little bit difficult question to ask. I can tell you in our past, the direct economic injury disaster loans are approved, in the past have been approved anywhere between 18 and 21 days. Naturally, we are aiming to push that application or decision process much, much faster with our streamlined questions and the new direction we've been given with the legislation. So I'm expecting, hopefully we'll get to a point where that could be approved within a matter of days instead of a matter of weeks. And again, that's not set in stone yet. That's just what it's my understanding of the new legislation and direction we're going. I can tell you that in the past also with disaster loans, from the time a decision was rendered, a person's bank account and the time the decision's rendered and the loan is closed, a person's bank account is funded within a matter of 5 days. Again, with the new legislation, we're hoping to ramp that up to even faster, especially with the $10,000 that could be accessible at the beginning of the economic injury disaster. And I think that is expected to be able to be pushed out within a matter of a few days.
Okay, thank you for that, Wayne. We have another question here. If a business is already repaying an SBA disaster loan, are we still eligible for this COVID loan?
Yes. Quick answer, yes.
You are, and as I said in the frequently asked questions, you could actually do a consolidation with this one as well.
We have a question here. Can a business take out a loan solely for payroll assistance purposes?
Yes.
Thank. Okay, and thank you. We have another question. Could you please provide us with a list of banks and entities working with SBA on emergency injury loans and grants, and how do they apply for those grants?
I can tell you right now, and I think I might have put it in the chat, the 5 large banks in the territory are currently eligible as SBA lenders. That would be First Bank, Popular, Oriental, Bank of St. Croix, and Merchants Bank. And again, the process for them being able to participate in a payroll protection program and provide those loans under that, we expect that that will be ready by Friday.
Thank you for that, Wayne. We have another question here. For small businesses in hospitality/tourism, whose business is naturally up and down, and that employ independent contractors, how would we show payroll and or income and qualify when it can be up and down in any given week?
As the Congresswoman mentioned earlier, the underwriters will be looking at an average of last year's yearly expenses and payroll. So understandably, it goes up and down throughout the year, but the average will be looked at for the entire year. And then my understanding is for the purpose of the PPP program, that will be multiplied by 2.5.
Can I also add that because businesses are seasonal, you can either have, you're looking at the average of a period from February of 2019, or you can choose March of 2019, depending on when that seasonality is best for you to determine an average monthly payroll or the average monthly cost. For, we're talking about payroll, but that's compensation. It can be commission or similar compensation, wages, and salary, which would include independent contractors.
Okay, thank you, Congresswoman. Our next question is, for a company applying for a PPP loan, what is the minimum requirement of economic loss that a company must suffer to be able to apply?
This is Jeff Noel. There isn't one.
Thank you, Jeff. And just to remember, there are costs that are eligible and costs that are not. The loan proceeds may be used for payroll costs, costs related to the continuation of group health care benefits, employee salaries, commissions, or similar compensation, payments of interest on any mortgage obligations, rent, utilities, or interest on any other debt obligations that are incurred before the covered period. So outside of those areas, the loan cannot be used for those purposes. So just consider what you are thinking about utilizing the loan for.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We have a question. Will any of these loans or grants be subject to the Virgin Islands 5% gross receipts?
That's a good question, and I will write that down and get back to the group about it.
All right, thank you, Congresswoman. Our next question is, are we required to apply for an economic injury disaster loan in order to receive an emergency economic injury grant?
This is Jeff Noel. I know this one. The answer is yes.
And our next questions, are the territories, the United States Virgin Islands, considered quote unquote outside the United States?
No.
Not for purposes of these programs under SBA.
Thank you. Our next question, can a self-employed be reimbursed for lost income, mortgage, and utilities in the 8-week period?
This is Jeff Knoll. I believe the answer is yes. Individuals who operate a sole proprietorship or as an independent contractor and self-employed individuals are eligible.
The question would be, when you talk about mortgage, you would have to look to determine if a portion of that was utilized previously as an independent contractor in your business.
Our next question is, are we still eligible if we call our employees back?
My understanding is the answer is yes.
And my understanding is if you call your employees back and you're utilizing them, that will assist you in the loan forgiveness portion. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes, payments for payroll, mortgage interest, rent, utilities, that portion will be forgiven.
Thank you. Our next question. Can a business apply for both paycheck protection and an EID loan? How would that work?
Repeat that again, Mike.
Yes, ma'am. The question is, can a business apply for both paycheck protection and an EID loan? And how would that work?
Whether you've already received an economic injury disaster loan unrelated to COVID-19, or you receive a COVID-19 related economic injury disaster loan and or emergency grant between January 31st and June 30th, you may also apply for a Paycheck Protection Program loan. If you ultimately receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan or refinance an economic injury disaster loan into a paycheck program loan, any advance amount received under the economic injury grant program would be subtracted from the amount forgiven in the Paycheck Protection Program. However, you cannot use your economic injury disaster loan for the same purpose as your Paycheck Protection Program loan. For example, if you use your economic injury disaster loan to cover payroll for certain workers in April, you cannot use Paycheck Protection Program for payroll for those same workers in April, although you could use it for payroll in March for different workers in April.
Thank you, Jeff. The next question, does the CARES Act make available any tax credits to small business owners? And if so, what are they?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mike.
Does the CARES Act make available any tax credits to small business owners? And if so, what are they?
Yes, I mean, at least the two that we went over, the small business tax credit will provide a refundable payroll tax credit for 50% of eligible employers during the COVID-19 crisis. The credit is available to employers whose operations have fully or partially been suspended as a result of a government order relating to COVID-19. The credit is also available to employers who experience a greater than 50% reduction in quarterly receipts. The credit is provided for wages and compensation, including health benefits, and it's provided through December 31st of this year. And then there's the delayed payment of payroll taxes, the employer portion of FICA taxes, and half of the Self-Employee Compensation Act tax liability. All 2020 deferred amounts will be due in 2 equal installments, one at the end of 2021 and the other at the end of 2022.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next question. If a business does not have a payroll tax expense, there is still assistance for compensation/commission or direct payments made to the independent contractors, correct?
This is Jeff Knoll. I believe independent contractors themselves can apply.
Okay, our next question. For independent contractors like boat captains and crews who have no operating expenses, should wages and tips be considered as payroll expenses?
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that one. I'm sorry. We'll have to get back on that one unless anyone else knows the answer.
And this question is for Ted. Can you tell us how you all can support small business owners?
Sure. So the SBDC staff will assist via email, via telephone, or via Zoom to help you gather your documents, or at least guide you to gather your documents prior to submitting the loan, or we can help you through the loan process in and of itself. So we have that availability to do that. We can also guide and counsel on other things, obviously not only for the EIDL loan process, but for other general strategy now during this particular time, because not all businesses do need to apply for the EIDL. So we're able to kind of cover a little bit of everything, but our primary goal right now is to assist those businesses with the EIDL loan process. And of course, continuing our regular counseling for our current and any new clients that sign up as clients through our website, which is visbdc.org. So hope that helps.
Thank you for that, Ted. Wayne, could you also explain how your division can help out small businesses?
Right now, we rely on the Small Business Development Center to do the direct technical support of small businesses. Right now, we are an office of one in the Virgin Islands, so I'm primarily focused on pushing out information to as many entities as possible and making sure our technical support providers have the way that they can help the businesses directly. But you can always reach out to our office, and I will absolutely respond to you and give you the latest information I have.
And let me go back real quick just to re-emphasize. Right now, we're having to having to work with clients remotely because of obviously the situation. So once the distancing ban is lifted, we'll be able to assist clients back in the offices on both St. Thomas, St. Croix, and of course on St. John. But for now, everything that we're doing is remote.
Thank you, Ted. We have received another question. The PPP program will be applied for through local banks and not online application, correct?
They can apply through the banks and online.
So Wayne and Congresswoman Plaskett, so would they need to apply, and because I see some of the questions in the chat as well. So would they need to apply for the EIDL and then a separate application for the PPP online, or the PPP through the banks and then EIDL through online? Would you mind clarifying that a little bit? I'm sorry.
Ted, it's my understanding those will be separate programs, PPP through the lenders and economic injury directly through SBA's website. Another quick question I'll just answer, I saw pop up a few times, there was a question as to if you'd already applied for a loan under economic injury disaster loan last week, do you need to apply again? If you had completed your application, then you are all set. If everything is in there, then you're fine. We have that in the queue. If your application was not completed, then please go ahead and use the new format that is up on the website now. Good news is that's going to be a lot more streamlined than what you had begun last week.
Thank you for that, Wayne. I have another question here. The economic injury disaster loan grant offers relief for supply chain disruptions. Those individuals suffering substantial economic injury in all 50 states and territories may apply for an IEDL. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
All right, we have another question. Is there a forbearance period for SBA disaster loans from Irma and Maria?
Yes, through the remainder of 2020.
We have another question. Does a proprietor have to have a business license?
I would think it has to show that it is a licensed business in some way. Yes.
Which technically all businesses, whether it's a sole proprietor all the way up to a large corporation, they should be registered not only federally but locally with the government to make sure that all the documents are current and that they are applying to the local and federal laws, which obviously makes the ability to apply even more critical, that a business is licensed and registered. So that's an important fact that a lot of folks don't understand. It's just because they're in business doesn't mean that they're a recognized business. They have to be registered both federally and locally with the different entities. So.
Thank you, Wayne. We have one more question here. Can you please discuss opportunities for restaurants whose employees are predominantly hourly and not salaried?
I'm not sure I understand the question accurately, but restaurants, these programs that are designed, that economic injury that we already have and the new ones that are designed are primarily addressed to places like restaurants that were most impacted in hotels and others. So they certainly are eligible.
Thank you for that, Wayne. We have our last question before we go to the Congresswoman for a closing statement. Wayne and Ted, could you all please provide your contact information and email addresses for local businesses to contact you all?
Sure, I can go first, Wayne. So you can email SBDC and we'll get back typically via email or a voicemail within 24 hours. The email is info@visbdc.org. And the telephone number, of course, area code 340-693-1694, extension 5104. Once again, 340-693-1694, extension 5104. And of course, if nobody picks up the phone, leave a message and we'll get back with folks within 24 hours.
And I have left my contact information in the chat. That's my direct email and my direct phone. I will respond pretty quickly. Keep in mind, I'm one person here and representing SBA in the Virgin Islands, but if you email me at that or leave a message at that number, I will respond typically within 24 hours.
Wayne and Ted, I thank you very much. Congresswoman, it's on to you for your final statement.
Thank you, and thanks everyone. I know that everyone's questions were not answered. Just for housekeeping, and so you all are aware, this is being recorded. A transcript will be sent to you with what was discussed on this recording, on this webinar. Additionally, we are looking at your questions, and you will receive a follow-up email later in the week with as many answers as we can find available and that are readily available on the questions that you have raised. And finally, also letting you know that we will have a follow-up webinar. We are thinking the beginning of next week or some point shortly in that time period when Wayne and others have a program in place and can be able to answer all of your questions. Just a couple of things. Independent contractors, I know we have a lot of those in the Virgin Islands. Also know that refundable tax credits are available for independent contractors who would have qualified for coronavirus-related pay leave if they were employees. The IRS will be posting information soon on those credits, including information on how to claim the credits. 50% of certain self-employment taxes are deferred through the end of 2020. Deferred taxes will not become due until the end of 2021 and end of 2022, with 50% of the liability being paid at each date. Independent contractors are eligible for assistance through the Small Business Administration's PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, as well as the Economic Injury Emergency Grant Program. And we'll have more information about that for you. This is not in the discussion, but just want you to be aware that mortgages as well, many of us also have mortgages, and if you are with a bank that receives, hold on a second, I was just looking at that and I want to share it with you all. If you are a homeowner with an FHA, USDA, VA, or a federally backed mortgage, including those guaranteed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, you may request forbearance on payment for up to 12 months with no fees, penalties, or extra interest, okay? And that, if you have to request that from your banks, there's a 60-day moratorium on foreclosures and evictions of homeowners, but you can have a forbearance on your mortgage during this time period as well. Again, Mike, I think I covered everything that you wanted me to. Thank you all for your participation. You all are the backbone of the Virgin Islands, all of the small business owners. We want to be as responsive and as helpful to you all during this time period. Thank you for participating. These are excellent questions. I'm actually going to be going back to some of our leadership and others about these things to make sure that we clearly have answers and make sure that the program is geared to support you all as much as possible. Mike, thank you all. And remember that we are in today, the governor has called today to be a day of prayer and uplifting for ourselves, for our community, for our leadership. And I'd ask you all to take some time during the day to call upon a higher power to support us as we get through this all together. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And this concludes the webinar. Thank you.